So much better. So much better. Can't stop playing. Can't stop playing. Got an orgasm. 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 16 by 9 aspect ratio. 16 by 9 aspect ratio.
Don't fuck with me.
My balls! I decided to get The Evil Within 2. I didn't really enjoy The Evil Within 1, which I did review back in late 2014. I got The Evil Within 2 off an impulse. Maybe it's because I just wanted to review a scary game for Halloween or something, but I don't know. I just decided to pick it up, even though I wasn't a fan of the first game at all. Very few games, like very few sequels, improve as much as The Evil Within 2. I mean, we're talking it fixes almost everything that was wrong with the first game. Kind of like how Resident Evil 2 completely made everything better from Resident Evil 1, or Silent Hill 2 did for Silent Hill 1, or The Witcher 3 did way better than The Witcher 2. Very few sequels have that really profound improvement. The level of improvement is incredible. I'm so happy I got this game because I really enjoyed it a lot. And let me get into it some more, and let me tell you the real reasons why I think this is a much, much better game than the first one. And there are a few things that I didn't like about it still, but for the most part, it's like a vast improvement over the first game. Take a look. The Evil Within takes place about 3 years after the events of the first game. Sebastian Castellanos believed that he had lost his daughter in a house fire. Whoa, 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 whoa. Time out. Time out. Time out. Since when does Sebastian have a daughter? I don't ever remember this being mentioned in the first game. Alright? There was no backstory on Sebastian at all in the first Evil Within. I had no idea he had a fucking daughter. God damn it. Oh, that's another reason why I hate The Evil Within 1. Oh, man. Fucking piece of crap. But he then finds out from his ex-partner in crime, Kidman, that Lily was actually taken by a company called Mobius, where they took her back in STEM, and now she's trapped in there and is being chased by the mind of an evil cultist leader, and you have to get her back. You have to save her. And that is your one chance at redemption. So that's basically the story of The Evil Within 2. I know it sounds confusing, and it is with that little bit of context, but I don't really want to get into it because it is a really good story. There's a lot of plot turns here and there, especially near the end, and I just don't really want to spoil much of it. That's pretty much like a really basic a basic synopsis or summary of the story. Now, in terms of controls, the gameplay still isn't nearly as good as it should be, but it's still an overall improvement over the first game. We now have open world town hubs with a couple of side missions each and collectibles all over the place. You can go explore. It's all open ended. You can ignore the story for a long time. There's also a place called the Marrow, which you get to by going into a computer system, and it virtually transfers you to an interconnected like sewer system. It's basically the place that connects all the other areas together. Though it's not that open world, but you get the gist. Um, there are different enemy types. There's the basic zombies, and then you have these bride-looking zombies that can't really be killed with stealth attacks. You have to surprise attack it and then hit it a couple times with a shotgun for her to die. There are these dog-type enemies with giant mouths that are pretty dangerous. They're kind of like the dogs of the game. There's also this really tall, poisonous enemy type lady, like fucking 9 feet tall, really scary, poisonous. Um, and then you of course have the stealth. You can perform stealth attacks, or you can hide and just ignore enemies altogether. You can also attack an enemy from cover while it's investigating an area or simply just walking by. There are also zombies occasionally laying around alive that makes you think that they're dead even though they're not. Sound familiar? Resident Evil 1 Mansion. So, you can shoot them to have them stand up and go after you, or you can hit them with your knife or an axe that insta kills them. And there's also crafting, of course. You can craft in either save rooms, or you can also field craft, but field crafting requires twice the amount of resources as you would if you travel to a safe house and crafted there. There are also interactable NPCs that you can talk to and ask questions, so there are dialogue choices there, kinda. There are various puzzles like this wavelength thing that you see. It kind of reminds me of the puzzles or the hacking in Splinter Cell Double Agent. I know that sounds irrelevant, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. There's also these weird switcher puzzles. You got to switch the power on. So there's different types of puzzles, and one particular platforming thing where you have to hide from a spotlight, which was really cool. There are also loot crates that you can smash to get more resources for crafting. There's also ammo packs around that can increase your max ammo count for your weapons. Um, Occasionally, they also have coffee makers to restore your health. Now, this is really fucking cool. Why can't every game have coffee as healing items? I think BioShock was the first one to do that. But I really love the coffee maker. Gotta love your coffee.
Leave me alone! Oh, it's black. Oh,
Oh, it was a coffee creamer.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Motherfucker.
Alternate outfit, motherfucker! Payback's a bitch! Say your prayers, you child mask wearing piece of shit!
Thank you for beating the shit out of me!
Like most modern video games in existence, this game has collectibles, and it has a lot of collectibles. We're talking 40 different files that are really important that help further explain the story, to just Easter eggs like this Fallout bobblehead. The game also has like projector slides that are also very important to collect. They further deepen Sebastian's character and what is really happening in the game, and what is going on in his mind. Most of these collectibles are important. I really encourage you to go out there and explore and explore and explore and try to find as many of these collectibles as you can. Oh yeah, and I missed one file out of 40. I missed one file out of 40.
Yeah, here's where Darian goes berserk yet again.
There are things that are still present from the first game, things that I really like, some things that I don't, like the mirror to a safe haven. It's where you upgrade all your abilities with green gel that you get from fallen enemies. It's where you also unlock your lockers with keys that you find throughout, which are also collectibles. There's also the unlockable New Game Plus, where you can max out everything. Along with the good things, there's also a few bad things, like the bad pistol aiming. It's still way too zoomed in. I mean, it's way too zoomed in. Not really a big problem with the shotgun or the sniper rifle or the crossbow, but with the pistol, I find it so unreliable to use because it zooms in so much that it's basically like a first-person shooter. I can't aim for shit with the pistol because the enemies are always like right in front of you, and when the pistol aims, it goes in way too much, and I can't aim for shit, especially with a laser sight. I find it to be really hard to pull off headshots, even though they should be pretty hard to pull off, but still, it just feels harder to aim than it should. This isn't a bug or a technical glitch or anything. It is an actual design choice by the developer, but it's just one that I don't like. I disagree with using this design for aiming. There are a couple cheap bosses, like this flamethrower guy. He is pretty easy at first, and shooting his tank out should be considered an advantage, but if you do that, he just bum rushes the shit out of you and knocks you around constantly until you die, and you can't even outrun him because he runs super fucking fast, which I'll talk about later on, the running. There was also one occasion where a zombie took like a ridiculous amount of ammo to down. And yeah, the running is a bit too slow. When you run regularly, it's basically just like walking, and when you sprint, it's basically just like jogging. It feels too slow. Sometimes I can't outrun basic zombies, and sometimes it can make the game feel a little too challenging. Um, Still not as hard as the first Evil Within. That game was hard for bad reasons. This one is occasionally tough, but for the most part, on the default survival difficulty, it's okay. There are also two minor bugs. One where I was shooting with a sniper rifle, and I think the forklift had a really big hitbox, as you can see right here, and I couldn't pull off a headshot. There was also one where I flew in the air across the fucking room. I don't know what the fuck this is, but hey, you know, it wasn't a game-breaking one. And there was only one frame rate slowdown throughout 20 hours of playtime. So this is a very solid game. I'm a little disappointed that there are a few things that I don't like about the Evil Within 1 that are still in 2, but it's a very solid game. Perhaps the biggest improvement that you'll ever see in this game is how deepened and developed the characters are more in this one. How much more emotional the game is, how much more personal the story is, how much better the voice acting is, and it all comes to life. The presentation of the game, especially in the last few chapters, is absolutely phenomenal. We're talking almost as good as like The Last of Us. At least in my opinion. People are going to shit on me for saying that just now, but I really think it's that good. The presentation, the voice acting, people's backgrounds are more fleshed out and revealed than in the first game where they were just completely ignored. Biggest improvement of the game is just the story, the character development. The game's a lot more cinematic in terms of the story. The voice acting is a lot better, and yeah.
Joseph, you think there's a connection?
Everyone all right back there?
Just a few bumps. We're fine.
Fine.
We will be once we're far away.
Fine.
A little further and we'll be fine. A little further and we'll be fine.
A little further and we'll be fine.
Now I'm so messed up. I'm talking to an hallucination. I failed you. I couldn't save Lily from the fire. I failed everyone.
That's not true, Sebastian. There was no fire to save her from. You know this now.
But I couldn't protect her.
I just want to talk about a few more things before closing this review. I want to talk about the difficulty. It wasn't as hard as the first game. I died so much in Evil Within 1 on normal. And I played through this one on normal, and I died only a few times, maybe 5 at most, throughout 20 hours. It just wasn't as hard, and I feel like the reason why it wasn't as hard was because it was simply made better. I remember the Evil Within 1 being cheap as fuck. I remember it being incredibly bullshit in terms of gameplay mechanics and stuff. I found the enemies and the bosses to all be really cheap. They weren't as cheap in this game. I feel like the Evil Within 1 was hard for bad reasons, while the Evil Within 2, well, it's not as hard for good reasons. So if you were turned down from the Evil Within 1 because it was too hard, you thought it was way too hard, I just want to let you know that the Evil Within 2 is definitely not as challenging or frustrating or hard in general, not as cheap, not as bullshit, better made, period. So I would still give this a chance. I mean, maybe wait for a price drop if there were other reasons why you didn't like the Evil Within 1. But then again, there's a ton of shit that I didn't like about The Evil Within 1, and I just paid full price for The Evil Within 2, and I don't regret it, so yeah. Another thing about The Evil Within 1, it was known for a lot of blood, a lot of fucking violence, very explicit, insanely gory, to the point where it was practically more of a comedy than a horror. This game is a bit more toned down on the violence. It does have a few really fucked up major scenes where an artist blows up the heads of like 100 people and shit, and like, you know, you get to like chainsaw a big guy in half or something, but that's kind of it. Those are basically like the only really violent parts. I feel like that they toned down the violence and instead took more of an eerie horror approach rather than a slasher horror approach, because I didn't think The Evil Within 1 was that scary. For example, in this game, throughout most of The Evil Within 1, you get chased by this ghost lady. She stalks you throughout, and if she catches you, she grabs you and sucks your soul through your mouth, and you die. It's really fucking scary. This chick like hums and like sings really creepy, eerie noises, and it was probably scarier than anything I've seen in like Resident Evil 7. This was pretty fucking scary. I was on my toes every time I encountered this ghost lady. So yeah, The Evil Within 2, in my opinion, is also a bit more scarier than The Evil Within 1. Not as violent, but scarier. And you know what? I prefer it that way. There's something I forgot to mention. This game has a shooting range later on in the Safe Haven area, which is pretty cool. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of the whole shooting range mini games, but I do appreciate it. You do get extra stuff from doing well in the shooting range, so it's pretty cool. And you also have a black cat now. Sebastian does not remember having a black cat, and neither do I.
Been a long time, Black Cat. Didn't know I had a black cat. Apparently I do now.
I thought The Evil Within 1 was so disappointing, man. Whether we're talking about its storytelling, or the pacing, or the flat one-dimensional characters with wooden voice acting, or its clunky gameplay that more often than not broke the immersion of horror in lieu of frustration. Almost all of that is fixed now in the second one, but it doesn't just stop there. It also took heavy inspirations from the early Silent Hill games with its open-world style town hubs, combined with stealth and crafting elements of The Last of Us. There are still a couple of issues still present from the first game, like the cumbersome aiming, and a couple of insultingly cheap boss fights, but the level of satisfaction after a lengthy 20 hours or so, which by the way is pretty fucking long for a survival horror game, more than makes up for its faults. The Evil Within 2 gets a surprisingly high 9 out of 10. Jumping from the first game to the second, it went from a 6 to a 9 to me. This is the best sequel of any series I've played this year, and if you're a fan of survival horror games like me, you owe it to yourself to pick this one up. I highly recommend it. Thank you very much for watching.
The Gamer Gods!
Happy Halloween, motherfuckers.